The second, the incentive dimension. So you have two options, the idea of refining the existing view or thinking out of the box. Now, imagine yourself for a second, your PhD student enters the room. What would you advise him to do? Refining the present view or thinking out of the box? And I think that we go for the refining the present view. It pays to herd. It pays to herd to be with the colleagues in the same view of the universe because any model could tell you that, of course, if you are in a herd, if you are together in being wrong, it's more difficult to establish your individual reputation. While if you are thinking out of the box and you are wrong, your reputation is dead, right? So, of course, we tend to be together in the same herd, and again, Bayesian updating means that if you have this signal and I have this signal and we all think together, we update our signal and we feel even more confident to be in the very nice group of people thinking along the lines of what is politically correct to think. And so, if you cry out in the desert, like Nouriel Roubini has been doing for some time, right, then you appear in the newspaper as Dr. Doom, which, you know, indicates clearly that is not the best way to position yourself. And finally, I wanted to mention the incentive dimension, right? The communication problem. So first, communication, because, well, when we think about economists, we would like to think about something rather homogeneous. And since Juan Carlos mentioned, quote, Keynes, I wouldn't like to be any different. And so Keynes somewhere, I don't know exactly why though, but he said economists should be like dentists. So not exactly like doctors. Dentists maybe more, it hurts more. And so that's true, but the dentists, I think, are more homogeneous, and we are quite heterogeneous. And so maybe we think we are great economists, but then if you go and ask politicians who are the good economists of the country, maybe they will say something different. And if you ask people in the street, they will go for a completely different definition of what good economists are. So this, of course, means that it's difficult to have an opinion, and the example that Juan Carlos gave is very good indeed. If you say, I don't know, if you say with probability 10% A happens and with probability 90% B happens, then you won't be in the media clearly, right? And so, all the more that there is a social demand for gurus, and that people that will predict your random walk in the right way, right? There is a demand for that, so there is a demand for reductionist view of the universe. At the same time, there is a problem of timing in the communication, and because indeed, if you have this 10% probability of a crisis, which is pretty high, then it's quite. It will be quite often the case that you will go for 5 years on a row predicting a crisis, right? And so when we started to say in our family, don't buy a house, you know, they were every year complaining, but it has increased again. Come on. And you have to deal with that. Right? And so let me go then to finish. And I have not answered the questions, but there is this question number 2. Do you think the economist profession deserves part of the blame for the great financial crisis? I'm afraid I would tend to give a different answer than Juan Carlos and say, well, you know, we know that we should somehow define the right regulation. Because once you have the right regulation, then competition will lead you to the best outcome, indeed. But if we do not define the right regulation, then we have a problem. And in this, I think, we people thinking around banking, and I'm, of course, part of it, more than some of you, which are not to blame, of course, we should have thought more in terms of incentives than in terms of econometrics, right? So Basel II was a nice tool, and it could be refined and so on, but the incentives were there, and we didn't see the whole, we didn't manage to see the possibilities of a huge crisis that were implicit in the incentives structure. To be more clear on that point, what I think we should have seen is that the objective function of bankers was biased towards taking too much risk and towards taking profits as given, while this, instead of having provisions for the future. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Xavier.